based on what you've heard today, what, in your view, is the single most important thing advertisers can do to tackle issues around efficiency and effectiveness of their marketing spend?
Well, thank you very much, Michelle, for that introduction. So Game Theory is a marketing foresight consultancy, and we help CMOs to make faster, smarter business decisions. And so for me, the single most important thing is to ensure that your marketing strategy is aligned with your business strategy and knowing in advance your goal. And that sort of boils down to answering three key questions. First of all, what is it that you're trying to achieve? Secondly, how are you going to know that you're achieving what you set out to do? And then thirdly, who else do you need to actually achieve that goal? So when it comes to what are you trying to achieve, that very much has to link back into your business strategy. Are you looking for short-term sales, or are you looking for long-term growth? Are you trying to generate demand, so raise awareness and consideration, or have you already done that job and now it's about conversion and you're trying to get the sale? Are you a new brand that's actually trying to grow your base, or are you an established brand where you're trying to maintain your sales and maintain your growth? And that part of your marketing strategy has to link back to what the business is trying to do. In terms of how do you know that you're on the path to achieving success, that has to come back to data and insight, but not data for the sake of data. We talk to CMOs who tell us that they are data rich, but insights poor. That they've got these fragments of insights that don't really tell them what action that they need to take. So it's important to work out what data matters within your organisation and to unify that and to have a holistic view of your organisation. And ultimately, within that, whether you're raising awareness or perception, it's got to be about, are you moving sales? Are you making a difference to the bottom line? And if it's relevant to your organisation, the share price. And then finally, when it comes to the who else do you need, marketing is more than media and advertising. It's about product, it's about placement, it's about price, it's about promotion. So you need to ensure that you've aligned everybody within your organisation to do that. In order for to tackle the issue of effectiveness, marketing really needs to be seen as an engine of growth, of business growth within their organisations.
Thank you. That's great. Alan, I wonder if you could help comment from your perspective of investors. So this is a really compelling role for marketing and for marketing leadership within businesses. How much do you think marketing has a responsibility to drive the long-term versus short-term view of what those objectives are for businesses?
Yeah, I think it's a real challenge because investors are just as long-term as anyone else. They're sometimes forced to be short-term, but if you can make a convincing case. The problem, I think, from the outside is how do we know if a company's really nurturing its brands or exploiting its brands? Because we know from history that you can exploit a brand for a while before the damage starts to become visible. So actually having an idea, having some metrics to measure, albeit very blunt and simplistic metrics, because the old one we used to use was simply A&P as a percent of sales, and that became distorted when people started introducing digital and other forms of marketing. So it's important for investors as well to see some kind of KPI around marketing effectiveness.
Okay, thank you. And I think core to what you just were talking about is the idea of trust. So how can you gauge whether something's been done to over leverage or really to invest? And so I think that is connected to the first question from the audience, which is how do we grow trust in brands and the industry? Can this really be through financial investment from above, or does it have to be organic from the bottom up? Nick, I wonder if you could talk about that.
Well, I would say, I think this is one of the themes that I was talking about really, is that we have to win this fight in the trenches, not in the air. That means it has to become a day-to-day priority, and you almost have to win consumers over one person at a time. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration because you can do it en masse via social media and so on, but trust you can lose it quickly. It takes quite a long time to regain it. But every organisation should think about how they go about doing that and how they rebuild that trust. And a lot of that is about acting responsibly, and there are various ways you can do that. Certainly data is a big part of that. And I think people want to buy off brands they like and trust. I mean, people will always... Favourability is one of the most important things in advertising, always has been. Familiarity, favourability. Some of those old verities are still true. And if you lose trust, you lose favourability, and then you're on a slightly slippery slope.
Excellent. We've got another question from the audience. Alan, you briefly teased us with the comparison between General Mills taking a stand for investing in capability in advertising versus Kraft Heinz, focus on margin and cost reduction. Do you think it works, so higher revenue to deliver more profit despite lower margin? And how can it be sold to investors as a positive strategy rather than cost complacency?
Yeah, tricky one. I mean, I think it can be sold to investors, but there has to be a lot of explanation behind it. What investors are always nervous about is that companies are just following the fashion of the day. It's a knee-jerk reaction to Kraft Heinz, or it's a knee-jerk reaction to something else. And so there needs to be confidence that it's thought through. Similarly, some of the big stretching margin targets that have been put out there, companies have argued that that's not going to hurt the business. I'm going to take 10% of my cost base, so it's not going to hurt my business. But the investors are asked to take that on trust. Yeah. As I say, the big problem with this industry is you don't know how damaged brands are until much later on, and that's what people need to feel comfortable that it's the right strategy for the long term.
Can I just add one thing here?
Yes.
That it used to be the case that there was a linear correlation between the amount of money you spend on marketing and marketing effectiveness, and that is no longer the case, because it used to be driven by large advertising campaigns, and this is long before digital media, social media and so on. It is possible now to launch brands very successfully with a lower level of investment and still be successful. So things like a percentage of A&P is still relevant to a lot of the CPG brands, but not so relevant to some of the younger, smarter brands. And that's one of the changes I think we've seen over the years.
Manjiry, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I think, when we talk to some of the younger brands that are launching, the metrics that they're most concerned about is the cost per acquisition. Mm-hmm. Not so much even the return on investment, it's the cost per acquisition. As I'm growing, how can I find the lowest cost of acquiring a customer? And then how do I work out what's the lifetime value of that customer as part of that? Because there's a huge investment. You might offer a promotion, you might offer a discount to get that consumer in, but then how long are they actually going to stay with you?
Brilliant. With that, our time is up. Thank you, panelists, very much. I really enjoyed being up here with you. Please give a round of applause for our panelists.